The teams that win accept a higher level of performance, a higher mindset, which is all about love and embracing family, family. Forget about me. I love you. I guess that was the perfect place to start just because we didn't know where we're going to start. You asked me about that lyric.
Well, I think we're two speedsters at these events just trying to make a difference. And I will say that every time I've seen you go, I said I wish I had more time with him. And you're on the move, Dan. I got to applaud you for that. And that's what I was going to ask you early in the show. What is it that makes you desire? I mean, you don't ever take a day where you say, "What can I do to make a difference?" I mean, you are very active. In fact, you're more active now than possibly when I met you in 2015.
Feel is by sharing our stories. It's
Um,
so critically important that everybody understands the significance of storytelling in every conversation, in every marketing ploy, in everything we do.
we're going to go into at least a story or two, especially the one about the accident you had that laid you up. But I wanted to just layer this a little bit. I was with the Simon Sinek thing during the pandemic about that why, and what I realized is he was speaking to people that had already figured out their who. And I wanted to comment on the fact, based on your belief, you're causing an epiphany for me. So I want to add this into the show. Is the more you believe in yourself, the more you'll believe the gift you deserve is the why. Welcome to the Dr. Smiley Show. And if you see the smile, it's because of the man I have in front of me here. I'm so excited to introduce Dan Clark, a friend who is not only wise, humorous, but probably one of the best storytellers I've ever heard in my life. So, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ken. You're one of the very best promoters, marketers, authors, presenters I've ever been around. So the feeling's mutual.
Well, you know how sometimes people read your bio and then you hear it and you're like, first of all, that took a long time. That's one. And then number two is that must be an old bio. I've done 37 books, not 27. So I just always let people know that whatever's going to happen, the show is going to share where they are at this point and what they're up to. And of course, what we can do to support you getting just that much bigger and better in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's your MO. You've always lifted everyone else around you better, made us better, lifted us up. And I appreciate that. I think I can speak for everyone who's ever met you. You know, quoting the lyrics from one of my hit songs, I think the purpose of every relationship, of every reason why we write a book, the reason why we ever get on a stage to speak is so that everyone always leaves us saying, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. And you've accomplished that, not just as Dr. Smiley, but I think just the essence of who you are and why you do what you do is what really draws people to you. And that's why I'm such a fan of you and your message.
Thank you, Dan. What song is that?
It's called Real Man.
Real
And
Man.
it's kind of a visualize Faith Hill singing and not me. I guess you brought it up. Lyrics. I need a man. Father's Day is coming up in June. Let's just talk man. Let's talk manhood, real manhood right now for a second.
Yes.
The quotes, I need a man, and visualize Faith Hill singing it, not me. I don't want somebody coming in late on this live and wondering what I'm doing. The lyrics are powerful. I need a man who knows happily ever after is a day at a time proposition. A man who knows making love is not a 3-minute composition. It's a slow dance full of romance, a walk on the beach in the sand. It's having a whole conversation just by holding my hand. He would stir deep desire that sets me on fire to be with him all that I can. No, no, I won't settle for anything less than a real man. Chorus. A real man strong in stature, firm in faith, and kisses slow. He sometimes cries, and when we hug, he's the last one to let go. Worshiping the ground I walk on, he's my biggest fan. There's nothing like being loved by a real man. Second verse. I need a man who knows happily ever after is a day to, sorry. I need a man who knows honoring me in my dreams is a macho disposition. A man who knows I love you is a more than words rendition. It's roses for no reason, secret love notes in my drawer. It's making me his equal, though he always gets my door. He would never raise his hand to me, believe in who I am. Yeah, I can be more than I thought I could be with a real man. Bridge. He talks to me through touch. I'm swept away in every clutch. We're lovers, but we're best friends too. I like me best when I'm with you. A real man strong in stature, firm in faith, and kisses slow. sometimes cries, and when we hug, he's the last one to let go. Worships the ground I walk on. He's my biggest fan. There's nothing like being loved by a real man. Not bad. The women tuned in are probably going, do you mind if I smoke? All the guys are going, oh, perfect. I'm glad my spouse or significant other wasn't listening to this live. But everybody
Well,
asks, how does a linebacker write a song like that? And my answer is, it was easy. I made a list of things I wasn't, and I decided I could become them, not because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of myself. I played football, basketball, baseball, ran track, All American, blah, blah, blah. Played football for 13 years. And one of the things that I really discovered is you don't compete against others, you compete against yourself. And the teams that win do not focus in on TEAM, that lame acronym, together everyone achieves more. The teams that win accept a higher level of performance, a higher mindset, which is all about love and embracing FAMILY, family. Forget about me. I love you. I guess that was the perfect place to start just because we didn't know where we're going to start. You asked me about that lyric, but it's about being heart centered, not just mind centered. You've always hit the nail on the head. The ambassador of love, the ambassador of forgiveness, the ambassador of connection, the ambassador of being a heart centered human being. And that's why you and I connect. I think that's from a distance when I go into a conference and watch you interact, connect with people. You always connect first at the head, and then you connect first at the heart, and then you connect the head, where most people come in transactional and try to connect with the head first and then somehow bring in the heart. And you've always done that in a reversed engineered way. And I think that's what makes you stand out so much as the ultimate connector and a dear, dear friend that I love and admire so much.
thank you, Dan. So you actually wrote that song,
Yeah, every word, all the music. Yeah.
and it got picked up by Faith Hill.
No, not yet. It's on hold, but it's one of those when you write a song like that, you keep it in your top drawer of your desk,
Hmm.
and you selfishly say, I need the right artist to sing it and perform it.
Is she
You
the
know,
right? Is she the one you want to sing it?
which is that was kind of old school. Celine Dion, and then her husband passed away, and she's have some health problems. Kelly Clarkson has now gone through a devastating divorce and emerged as this strong, confident, amazing, smart artist. So she's on my radar now. Carrie Underwood's obviously always on everybody's radar. So yeah, you just watch and listen for it in the next year or so. And I still, I had a publishing deal with Sony BMG all those years ago in Nashville, and I still write songs. I think it's powerful how you can actually put lyrics to music and evoke more of the brain chemicals and stimulate and trigger more emotion than if you just read it
Of
or
course.
if you heard someone speaking it, bring in that emotion. Maybe that's what we need to do is put your every one of your books to music. Come on, bro.
I think it's a beautiful idea. I was a DJ for 40 years. You got me
Oh my
completely hooked on
gosh.
that one. Yeah,
Oh
before I
yeah.
met you, that's a long previous life of mine. But man, do I love music! And you know who I'm thinking about for you is I'll rewind the clock a little bit, but I'll say about 20 years back, that song is timeless. First of all, but
Mm.
I think it's a Shania Twain or Dolly Parton.
Now we're talking. I agree.
I mean,
Toby Keith, because I went down range 8 times, Iraq, Afghanistan, always firing up our troops. I love the military. Toby Keith and I connected at that level. He was so committed. He would just show up unannounced on a base and just put on a free concert for our military. I love him.
yeah,
And he got back from Iraq right before I was going back in 2005 on my first tour. And so I wrote a song just for him, visualized the ultimate redneck and accentuating the significance of music in our lives. One night I phoned the DJ to request of her a song, a little rhythm for my blues and a melody that turns me on. Stir me with some classical and a mix of jazzy smooth. I need a little country cry and slide to mellow out my mood. It needs to rock me every day and roll me all night long. She said, boy, you need a woman, not a song.
you know what
Perfect.
song you reminded me of for some reason? Neil Diamond, Solitary Man. I don't know why, but
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I
because
love
that's
that
a
song.
heartfelt song about hitting the road.
Oh, yeah.
And you
I'm surprised
certainly,
we haven't connected at the music level all these years, bro. Come on.
Well, I think we're two speedsters at these events just trying to make a difference. And I will say that every time I've seen you go, I said I wish I had more time with them. And you're on the move, Dan. I got to applaud you for that. And that's what I was going to ask you early in the show. What is it that makes you desire? I mean, you don't ever take a day where you say, "What can I do to make a difference?" I mean, you are very active. In fact, you're more active now than possibly when I met you in 2015.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken. Uh, what happens is that everybody tries to hide behind their comfort zone, and we actually buy in and become ambassadors of all growth happens on the other side of comfort zone. You've got to step out of your comfort zone, blah, blah, blah. I've always refused to buy into that mindset. Today is day one. End of discussion. You don't need another MO or a sign or a positive affirmation. Today is day one.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, no matter what your past has been, you have a spotless future, which means every morning I wake up curious to figure out how good I can be. That's it. I'm not talking about comfort zone. Oh, you got to do something you don't want to do every day. All those things sound wonderful. No, let's cut through the clutter. If you wake up and the only goal you have is to figure out how good you can be right now. And I love humor. Let me illustrate what we're talking about. When my Aunt Lucy was 63 years old, she started walking 5 miles every day. Now she's 91 and we don't know where she is. We laugh. But the number one limiting belief that holds us back from accomplishing our goals and becoming the best version of ourselves is either living in the past. Everybody says, be present in the moment. Well, what if your present sucks? I just had my high school reunion. I won't tell you the number, but all of us have had high school reunions. And what happens for the first 90 minutes? We lie. Man, it's great to see you. No, it's not. I hated your guts when I was 16 or 17. This is a bunch of crap.
Right.
After about 90 minutes, when we stop kowtowing or whatever the word is to each other, then what happens is we start to coagulate with our old friends. And in this past reunion, I realized how many of my old friends kept dragging me into the past. Oh, Danny, I remember you kept getting us in so much trouble. Surprise, surprise. I was a maverick renegade, ADDHD, and a lot. I would have had all the letters of the alphabet behind my name, but they didn't have any tests in those days. But I finally had to put my foot down and say, stop dragging me into the past. It's like you're trying to rob my old house, and I don't live there anymore.
That's right.
So if you're not accomplishing your goals, it's because you're trying to live in the past, which creates regrets and depression. Or you're trying to live in the future, which creates worry, stress, and anxiety. Oh no, what if, I wish I should have, could have, would have. Or, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of the unknown. I want to stay in my comfort zone. You get caught up in all that BS. No, what we have to do is answer the only question we can answer. Where are you right now? It's like ordering an Uber ride that requires that you enter in your current location. If you lie about where you are, the directions won't work.
Hmm.
So, key question is, and it's the answer to your question, if you don't look at your life as a continuum, I just had my birthday, which means I'm a lot older than you, but that's just a number. It's not how I feel. It's not how I prepare. It's not my motivation. So many of my friends my age have retired. Clark, when are you going to retire? What am I going to do? Stop talking? What am I going to do? Stop writing songs? What am I going to do? Stop writing books? I don't equate to that. I want to die while climbing. I don't want to die at the base of the mountain. I want to die with my boots on, scrambling, trying to figure out how I can become better today than I was yesterday. And that's one of the mantras we raised our 4 children on. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. So get up and go, fire up right now. And that's what keeps me motivated. I can give you a deeper answer if you want of why I've given 6,000 speeches in 76 countries. I was sponsored in the National Speakers Association way back in 1982 by Zig Ziglar, who mentored me, dear friend, for those 25 plus years in the art and science of storytelling, the art and science of public speaking. But I've never missed a speech. And I don't want your listeners or your viewers to think I'm such a noble soul. No, I've never missed a speech because I know for a fact, Ken, that there's at least one man and one woman in every one of my audiences who is hurting as badly as I was when I was paralyzed playing football, when I lost my identity, suicidal ideologies, hot mess. And if you want me to get into the details of what I learned, I would be my pleasure. But I'll stop flapping my jaws and allow you to ask me another question. You're the great interviewer. I'm so sorry. I go so long without a breath. I'm just tired.
No,
I'll lie.
you do not ever apologize in this show because you're here because I want to hear your voice and I want to hear your message.
Thanks.
I want to show the world one of the first days I saw you, and then I want to go back into that question that you just asked me to ask. Okay, so
Thanks.
um, this is one of the first photos
Gosh.
I met you at CEO Space, and I got all kinds of fun photos from that day.
Oh my gosh.
And I've always gotten the best photos from you because you bring your heart. You are physically involved in every single word you say.
Thanks. Yeah.
It's effortless. You know that as a photographer, not that I am one, by the way, Dan. People accuse me of that because they see a camera on my shoulder, but I'm a marketer. I'm an artist. I'm a heart-centered leader like you. I care about the world. In fact, this is a question I'd like to ask you. My word is impact. I ask my question. Some people say, like Beth Robbins has a new book called Carpe Diem and seize the day, but she has a smile. And I said, why don't you do your book, Carpe Diem, seize the day with a smile? Because that's what you do when you actually seize the day. You do it with a smile. If you don't do it with a smile, you're doing it with dominance, I think.
Yep.
So my question for you, sir, is first of all, thank you for the great shots and the great messages I've seen you over and over give. But impact, that's my word because I say, what can I do to impact the world more? What can I do to impact my son more? What can I do to impact this show more, etc. So what's yours?
What's my what? How? What's my quantifying the word impact?
And either that or what word drives you. Like this word really drives me.
Wow, that's a lame word that comes to mind quickly is influence, but it ties into impact. The thing I immediately went to when you said impact was the ripple effect. When you throw that pebble and it ripples,
Yeah.
and the idea of a positive affirmation being generational, the idea of someone who has completed their suicide and talking to psychologists and psychiatrists and expert therapists and medical professionals who really claim that if we could just talk to that person and keep them from completing their suicide for 15 minutes, they wouldn't do it.
That's right.
And so it's that one moment in time. So, good friend of mine, Tony, Tony Rodriguez, he's one of the top trainers for Tony Robbins. He and I used to host a weekly show just on story selling on my book, Story Selling. And he said, your stories is yours, but it's not yours to keep. If that story can save a marriage and kickstart an entrepreneurial idea, can save someone or keep someone from taking their life. And the power of stories is so incredible, which I know you know as an author and as a marketer. My dear friend, Simon Sinek, we have the same publisher in Penguin Random House, and he and I have been on the program many times together. Obviously, we're familiar with his golden circle and his powerful book, Start With Why, and his TED Talk that put him on the map. So when I follow his message, it kind of takes us on a deeper dive. But what Simon Sinek reminds us about is that we don't buy what you sell, we buy, what you believe. We don't buy what you do, we buy what, we don't buy what you do, we buy why you do it. And then to throw in my own sense of reality, what we believe and why we do what we do is our story. And in the business world, our why is not to make money, that's a result. Our why is what gives someone a reason to do business with us. There's two powerful quotes that help illustrate my word influence, your word impact, and why they're married together at the hip, I believe. Number one, the purpose of a leader is to grow more leaders who believe what you believe, not generate more followers. Impact comes from belief, which triggers action, not the other way around. The second quote, the goal is not to do business with everybody who wants what you have. The goal is to do business only with those who believe what you believe, so they choose you not just somebody who does what you do. So the question of the day is why and what gets someone to choose you, walk past the competition? Why would somebody choose you instead of just somebody who does what you do? It's because of the way we make them feel. Facts tell, stories sell. Knowledge is power, but it has no heart. We don't learn to know, we learn to do. All the information in the world isn't going to make a person successful. It's like the guy who has 3 PhDs, one in philosophy, one in psychology, one in sociology. He doesn't have a job, but at least he can explain why. Bottom line, reason leads to conclusions, but it is emotion that leads to action. Let me repeat, reason leads to conclusions, but it is emotion that leads to action. It's easier to act your way into positive thinking than it is to think your way into positive action, which doesn't contradict the powerful beginning point of belief. But what happens is the good action is what creates the good belief. You don't have to love yourself and have high self-esteem and a sense of self-worth in order to take action. If you're hurting, all you have to do is find another person who is hurting and help them, and two people are healed in the process. That's heart-centered leadership. That's heart-centered friendship. That's heart-centered coaching and mentoring. That's the only way we can have a lasting impact and a ripple effect influence in someone else's life, is to make sure that they remember. People don't remember what we say. They remember how we make them feel. And the only way we can make them feel is by sharing our stories. It's so critically important that everybody understands the significance of storytelling in every conversation, in every marketing ploy, in everything we do.
We're going to go into at least a story or two, especially the one about the accident you had that laid you up. But I wanted to just layer this a little bit. I was with the Simon Sinek thing during the pandemic about that why. And what I realized is he was speaking to people that had already figured out their who. And I wanted to comment on the fact, based on your belief, you're causing an epiphany for me. So I want to add this into the show. Is the more you believe in yourself, the more you'll believe the gift you deserve is the why that would give the most value to the people you want to serve.
Yes, sir. But when I do team building, the I talk about my 10 commitments to building that winning team, to turning an organization around, from taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from last place in the NFL to Super Bowl champions, all the social proof.
Mm-hmm.
And the first C is clarity. Who are you? It's the who. Character. What do you do when no one's around? Who are you really? But the third C, the third commitment, is competence. And competence comes from preparation. Preparation is what creates confidence. But we also understand that people don't buy for 5 reasons: money, time, need, urgency, or trust. But now let's just talk. I can trust you, Ken. I can trust you. And I can trust you to babysit my daughter or son while I'm going out. I can trust you as a marketer. But I don't think I would trust you to drill a hole in my dad's head to perform brain surgery unless I knew you had gone to medical school and didn't graduate last in your class, but graduated first in your class, that you're the top brain surgeon on the planet. That's the difference between trust and competence.
Mm.
So to your point, once we show that we can do what we say we can do, and when we do what we say we can do, that develops trust. And once we develop trust based on our competence and our personal confidence, suddenly money's not the issue. If money's the topic of conversation, it means the presentation is weak and the relationship is non-existent. Suddenly need does not take over. It's not an objection you have to overcome for the sales process. They know they need you in their life. They need your relationship. Urgency, suddenly they have a sense of urgency to step it up. And all of those things all filter out and connect themselves and have the impact and the influence that we dream about when it begins with competence. I want you to trust my competence, which gives me self-confidence to step up and do what I need to do, performance under pressure.
I love
So,
that. I love
yeah,
that. I'll tell you, I've never looked at competency that way, but competency is the consistency, and consistency is integrity. Because if you can consistently over and over and hit the frequency of a result, that is competency. You can count on it.
yep.
So that's beautiful. I
So,
want to say,
which is the fourth C, consistency, the
mm,
commitment in building a winning organization, consistent competence, consistent character, consistent clarity of who you are and where you're going, why you're going there. Yeah, interesting.
I would be remiss if I didn't give Barry Shore, one, a shout out with a card, but two, his C would be compelling.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
That makes me smile. Hey,
Yeah, me too. And the reason I showed this was because of your ripple effect. Is whatever you're doing in the world, you don't always know how much it impacts. But if it is related to value or smile or trust, it makes people feel really good, and they turn around and do it for someone else.
yeah.
It's rechargeable energy.
I have two online courses. One is called Speak Like a Pro. I've taught public speaking at the MBA level for 11 years at major universities. So it's consolidation of my curriculum, my syllabus. But I take everybody from hello to goodbye on the art and science of public speaking. And Warren Buffett said, you can increase your value in the marketplace by 50% if you just become a better public speaker and a master storyteller. And Stephen Jobs says the storyteller runs the world, the storyteller rules the room. I love that. But my other course is called Story Selling. And what I did is I took a deep dive into the six brain chemicals and how you can tell a specific story at a specific time for a specific reason and actually influence and impact someone's decision making in the moment, in the present moment, just by sharing that story that triggers that specific brain chemical so quickly. And I won't go into that in depth. That just story.
I actually would like that. I would love it if you went into depth of that. And then I do want to go back to that the other story we.
Okay, so my website is danclark.com, and you can snoop around and click on Speak Like a Pro and read everything that you can get out of the course and the whole deal. And it's pretty powerful. But story selling, the six brain chemicals are based on science, bio neurological science. It's so critically important that you understand that.
Mhm.
The first of the six brain chemicals is adrenaline. It's the urgency drug, and it's triggered when you have a startling change in your belief.
I'm,
Okay.
I'm note taking, baby.
Okay. So here we go. So, Ken, married, still married,
Yep, Mary.
significant. Okay, married. What's your wife's name?
Nelly.
Nellie, N-E,
Nelly. Yeah,
Nellie.
Nelly. Yep.
Okay, so Ken and I are at a conference, and it's all guys, and the testosterone's flowing, and the event planner divides us all up into basketball teams, and it's a bracketed tournament, and the winning team gets $500 each player. So we're like, okay, I'm fired up. And all of a sudden, Ken comes firing down, thinks he's Michael Jordan, does some spin move, puts all of his weight on his left knee to go up and slam dunk it, and his left knee blows out. He blows out everything, his ACL, his MCL, his meniscus. He hears the snap. He's on the floor, his leg, his knee, it's his right leg, and it balloons immediately up, black and blue to the size of a basketball. He's in excruciating pain. We drag him off the court so we can finish the game because we really don't care about him screaming. And then we finally figure out who wins. We now grab him and help him up to his hotel room. We get him some ice. We prop up his leg, get him a little ibuprofen, and we say, "Are you all right?" And he goes, "No, my business relies on me driving. It's my right knee. I won't be able to drive. I know I need surgery. It's going to be at least a 6-week, maybe a 5-month recovery in a cast. I am so worried. I'm in so much pain. I can't even concentrate. Kind of leave me to myself." So we all go down to the sports bar after. We're swapping stories, laughs, drinks, hors d'oeuvres. I call him up. "Ken, your buddy Dan, why don't you come down and join us?" Ken says, "Clark, you have no idea. I am in so much pain. I can't even move. It's this throbbing. I can't, it's unbelievable. And Dan, I'm really worried about how it's gonna impact my business. If this is so bad, I'm gonna have to pass." I said, "Okay, we'll check on you later." Ken, you hang up the phone with me, and 10 minutes later, your cell phone rings again. Says Ken Ocean, "Yeah, this is Officer James Dixon. Is your wife named Nellie?" "Yeah." We just found out that your wife Nellie was in a serious automobile accident. And I understand where you are. That's how I tracked you down. And you're 4.5 hours away from her. And if I can just share, if you don't get to her bedside immediately, she's not going to make it. You're never going to see your beloved Nellie alive again.
Hmm.
So now Ken hangs up the phone. Now he calls me back down at the sports bar, tells me what's going on. I say, well, I'll be right there. I tell everybody, we clamor to your hotel room. It's your right leg. You can't drive. I've got the fastest car there. We put you in. Don't worry. Suddenly you can walk. You limp to the car, but it doesn't hurt. Suddenly you're not worried about the future. You're not worried about the past. Suddenly it's not about you. Suddenly it's okay. Let's go. Come on, Clark, punch it. We got to go 100 miles an hour. I will pay the speeding ticket. Let's get going. And you have no physical pain. Endorphins are flowing because it masks physical pain. And 10 minutes into the drive, your cell phone rings again. Ken, yeah, this is Officer James Dixon. I feel so bad. Your wife, Nellie, is fine and well. She was not in an automobile accident. Some of your crazy friends put me up to this. I don't know why I did it. Don't worry. Now you hang up and you're so freaking angry, you will go to prison. You're going to find out which whistle dicks in your circle of friends that will no longer be friends again that you're going to kill and do life in prison for. In just a matter of an hour, you went from, oh my gosh, I can score. I'm going to take these guys to the hoop and slam dunk a basketball to, oh my gosh, this is impacting my career. I won't be able to pay my bills for 2 months because I'm homebound to, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. I can't even walk to, oh my gosh, I don't hurt anymore. It's not about me. I don't care. I'm not in pain. I'm not exhausted. I have so much energy. Get me to your car, Clark. To, are you kidding me? This really didn't happen. And nothing changed except what you believed. The significant power of figuring out how you can trigger adrenaline on call. So now I challenge everybody to watch the documentary on Michael Jordan, The Last Dance.
Hmm.
When you get through watching that documentary on Michael Jordan, you'll come away saying, do not piss off Michael Jordan. And one of the classic stories, going into the 1992 Olympics, it's the first dream team. Coach Daly from the Pistons, he's the head coach. And they're playing in a pre-Olympic game in Puerto Rico. And Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and Coach Daly are out on the golf course playing 18 holes of golf, hot day. They finish, and Michael Jordan says, I'm going to play another 18 holes. And Coach Daly says, you're going to not have enough energy to play in the game tonight. And Jordan says, don't worry about it. So Jordan plays another 18 holes. He shows up at the locker room right before the game, and he goes to Coach Daly and says, I want to guard their superstar. And Coach Daly says, he's not even in your position. He says, I don't care. He's the best player on their team. And I'm going to teach him a lesson. He's been bad mouthing me in the media and in the press for this entire week. And I'm going to show him who's boss. End of the game. Michael Jordan concludes the game with 42 points, 12 steals, 6 assists, and holds their superstar to only 6 points. Humiliates him. Don't tick off Michael Jordan. He has the ability to trigger adrenaline on call, which fills your body with so much juice, if you will. And the way the brain chemicals work, when your body triggers adrenaline, and then you also have the endorphin and dopamine, what happens is your body immediately shuts down those parts and organs of your body that don't need blood right now, like your stomach to digest food. And it puts all of your blood into the muscles so you can fight or flee, perform. Your blood pumps more rapidly. Your heart is seemingly stronger, and your lung capacity and endurance elevate, all because of changing your belief, adrenaline. So now you go through your stories. I'm going to index what stories I have from my own personal experience that would trigger this urgency drug in someone else. And now I have that in my bag of tricks. I have that in my quiver I have that in my golf bag as one of my 14 clubs, one of my 14 stories that I can call on a moment's notice because I've taken the time to polish and perfect them and edit them so every word pays its own way. And now adrenaline. Second brain chemical is called endorphin. It's the motivation drug, and it's triggered through humor or through telling a Rocky type story about resilience, getting back up and go again against all odds. So I don't need to illustrate that, but I
Yep.
will. So endorphin.
Just
I
don't.
can,
Hey, Dan. Just this one. If you can exclude me from any pain of my knee,
yeah, you're so funny. You're so funny. Did that analogy make sense? See what
it
happens? The power
it
of the
did,
mind.
and it was painful.
Yeah, it's funny. Let's just put a caveat into that. So we all have people in our life who say, I have so much anxiety. Not when your why is bigger than your why not.
That's right.
I have so much worry. I can't do this. I'm not physically able. You don't understand. I'm so overwhelmed. Not when your why is bigger than your why not.
Right.
Not when you have the ability to trigger adrenaline and focus your brain chemistry and your physiology and your neurology to just focus in on what you're doing. If you and I are walking in the woods and we come face to face with a grizzly bear, fear and stress is a gift. It's positive because of what I said. Suddenly we have that flight experience where now our muscles are so much stronger now, and our blood flow and oxygenation in our blood is so much stronger now. We can not only run faster than we've ever run, but we can run longer distances than we've ever run. And when we finally get away from that bear, we're like, I can't believe I did that. I've never done this in my entire life. When your why is bigger than your why not, our bodies are miracles. So, endorphin, triggered by humor, triggered by a resilient story about, you can get back up and go again. So, I played football for 13 years total. Everybody asked me how I became a speaker. I played football for 13 years total. One day in practice, the dream ended. Coach blew the whistle, and another player and I ran full speed into each other in a violent head on collision, smashing my right shoulder into the cutting edge of my fiberglass pads, and we slammed to the ground. And when Lyle got off of me, I'd compressed my seventh cervical vertebrae. I'd severed the axillary nerve in my right deltoid muscle and suffered a grade 2 level concussion, which is the worst one of all, which means I shook like a leaf. I threw up so many times and cried myself to sleep. My eye drooped. I had loss of speech. I couldn't talk anymore. My right side's paralyzed. My arm dangled helplessly at my side. Coach comes running over. Clark, you all right? What happened? He says, whoa, huh, where do you live? Where
I
do
live
you
in,
live?
I live in Maryland.
Yeah,
Maryland,
whoa, are
DC.
you from Maryland? I said, no. He said, "Whoa." He says, you better just, lay there. Whoa. A doctor that was present on the field, he came over and he examined, he pulls the coach aside. He says, Clark's got serious nerve damage. In fact, he might even have serious brain damage. Coach looks at him and says, how will we ever know? Ha, nice guy, infusing a little humor.
Nice.
It left me paralyzed for 14 months, my friends. I went to 16 of the very best doctors in all of North America. I went up into Toronto, Canada. 15 of whom told me I would never recover. I would not get better. How many of you have ever heard that? And what happens if you believe it? It
Yeah.
never gets any better. And my life spiraled downward until I hit what I thought was rock bottom. So now that I fought my way back to a 95% recovery, these are the three most frequently asked questions that I want to share the answers to, which will obviously not just illustrate, not will just trigger endorphin, but they will illustrate the depth of what happens when we hear a story or experience a story that triggers and releases endorphin. Question number one, Clark, what do you mean you thought you hit rock bottom? If you remember nothing else I say on this program, no matter how hard life gets, no matter how tough times get, nobody ever hits rock bottom. We hit rock foundation. We hit rock belief. We hit the baseline core values on which we were raised. And when COVID hit and we thought that our organizations or our companies hit rock bottom, they didn't. They hit the baseline governing principles on which they were built.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, current national statistics, 85% of family-owned businesses are going bankrupt by the third generation. Why? It's because this generation, Gen Xers, Gen Zs, millennials, they refuse to subscribe to the same baseline, irrefutable core values that grandpa and grandma subscribed to, who started and scaled the business. Integrity, service before self, excellence in all you do, customer service, work ethic, not entitlement. Oh, silver spoon. No, opportunity. And no matter what your past has been, we have a spotless future. And all the other qualities, being trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Can we go on?
Boy
So
Scouts
what
are doing
we
all
have to
right.
understand is belief. It goes back to, what do you believe, which is the answer to the second question. Clark, why did I keep going to so many different doctors? Answer, I kept going from doctor to doctor until I found one who believed I would get better. It's so powerful. We've gone full circle already. Question number 3. Okay, Clark, what took you so long? Why am I seeing so many people accelerate out of COVID and pivot faster than me? What's holding me back? I believe it's what's holding you back is what was holding me back, and we can fix it. The reason why I stayed paralyzed for 14 months, excuse me, was because I was asking the wrong questions. Are you? You see, I was asking the doctors how to get better when I should have been asking myself why. And once we answer why, figuring out the how to becomes clear and simple. Not easy. The hard is what makes it great, but clear and simple. And here's the kicker. So you don't think my recovery was a raw experience. Come on, Clark, cowboy out, build a bridge, get up and go again. Be a big boy, don't cry. No, it was based in physiology. It's based in neuroscience. When we only focus on the what and the how, we only engage the head, we only engage the brain, which makes us shallow friends, shallow leaders, shallow coaches and mentors. It makes us transactional, where all we're talking about is the how and the what, which means we're managers in command and control. We're
Hmm.
not heart-centered anything, heart-centered human beings. We can't have a lasting impact, a legacy influence. And isn't that our goal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we have to do is understand that when we only focus on the head, when we only focus on the what and the how, we only engage the head and the brain. But when we add to that a passionate why and a compelling want, our perfect reason that and our why that's bigger than our why not, it connects the head with the heart. And physiologically proven, our blood pumps more rapidly, our brains fire, and our muscles magnify, which maximizes our performance, maximizes our energy, and takes us full circle to validate today is day one. What can you do right now with the information and energy that you actually possess right now? And then with the belief and understanding the urgency drug of adrenaline and the motivation drug of endorphin, what could you possibly do if you stopped competing against others and started competing against yourself? Understanding 2 powerful quotes. Under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we train and prepare and practice so hard. Caveat. That means pressure is not something that's naturally there. It's created when you question your own ability. And when you know what you've been trained to do, there's never any pressure. Oh, peer pressure. The devil made me do it. No, he didn't. Let's get scriptural. The Apostle Paul in Corinthians in the Bible says, there hath no temptation taken you, but which is common to man. And paraphrasing, God will not allow us to be tempted above that which we are able to bear. Quit making excuses and take full 100% responsibility. That's a key word we can dissect. Responsibility, response, and ability. Do you have the ability to get up and go again? Yeah, but what will your response be? If you're driving down the road and it's a lashing rainstorm and there's someone sitting on a bench waiting for the bus to come, you have the ability to stop and invite them to take them to their destination. What will your response be? When you see a person who's homeless, who's going through a tough stretch in their life, do you prejudge them? Oh, why don't they get a job like I do? Oh, I've had tough times. They're mentally ill. They're just going to use this money for drugs or alcohol or whatever. If you refuse to judge them and say, wait a minute, here's a dollar, here's the least I can do, here's $5, maybe I have to lose $10. It's what your response will be to your ability. Always remember that. I've never met anyone on the planet who doesn't have more ability than they ever exercise. So it's not just about competing against what we're capable of, it's doing what we possibly can with our capabilities. So it's so critically important that we understand that because of what I've just said, my paralysis was the best thing, one of the very best things that's ever happened to me. Don't misunderstand, not my paralysis, but who I became because of it. You see, I thought I was a football player when in reality, that's just what I did. Is not who I am as a man. That's why I lost my identity and I was suicidal. I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I? I just needed to find a new game to play and make sure my why was bigger than my why not. So I stopped focusing on having fame and fortune and started focusing on being whole and being real, being authentic, being heart centered. So at the end of the day, when we identify ourselves in terms of what we do instead of who we are, we become human doings instead of human beings. Unacceptable of significance is what we seek. So as I started to get better, I was asked to speak. People were curious. That's how I launched my speaking career. Zig Ziglar heard me speak, and the rest is history. And I've written my 37 books and in the Professional Speakers Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah.
So
But here's my
significance was
point I want to make before we go on to the next question. Now you know why I've never missed a speech. I'm not more noble than you. 6,000 speeches, 76 countries. I've had flights canceled. I've had to rent a car and drive 7 hours from Denver, Colorado through the Badlands of Nebraska to speak as the closing speaker in a 3-day conference in Rapid City, South Dakota. And when I showed up to the ballroom, the man hugs me, tears. The woman is hysterical, hugs me. I was the only speaker in a 3-day conference who showed up because of inclement weather. When your why is bigger than your why not, I guarantee you will always show up. And that's competence, which is consistent, which builds trust, blah, 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 as we already talked about. But here's my point. Here's my point. I know when I teach public speaking, seek to bless, not impress. If you're nervous before you speak, it means that you think it's about you. But if you're excited to speak, you know it's about you. When we understand that it's always about them, I know for a fact that there's at least one man and one woman in every one of my 6,000 audiences who is hurting as badly as I was. And I have a moral obligation. Remember what Tony Rodriguez said, it's your story, but it's not your story to keep if you know it can change the world.
mm-hmm.
As the MO with my way involvement from day one in Chicken Soup for the Soul, changing the world one story at a time, like your son shared before Kenny gets on the air before we go live. Yeah, it's his 11th children's book, changing the world one book at a time, one story at a time. You've trained him well. You're such a superstar, living and epitomizing what we're talking about. But it's so critically important that we understand from a storytelling perspective, there's a moral obligation that if you've had an experience, if God, for some reason, if the universe has, for some reason, tapped you on the shoulder to become that spokesperson of inspiration and technique and tools and action steps to help someone take themselves from where they are to where they want to be, and you keep it inside of you and refuse to become that eloquent speaker, that eloquent master storyteller, shame on you. There you go.
Shame on you. So
Shame on
I do have a couple questions, obviously, that stem from that. Number one, one point to go into the question. So I live in the DC area, and there is something called 100 Made Men. It's about people that made it from, let's just call it the challenges, the inner city, the ghetto, whatever you want to call it. And they actually made something of themselves. And they said statistically that every single person that made it, they only needed one person to believe in them, and they had a 96% chance of graduating high school. And if they didn't have anyone to believe in them, they unfortunately did not do very well with their life and made very bad decisions and ultimately hurt the community. So my question to you is, when you were laid up and you were hurting, you said you needed a why that's bigger than your why not. What was the why that you said?
Now we're getting really deep, brother. So the classic stereotypical male is we're cave dwellers. I got this handled. Danny, okay. I became recluse. I became quiet. Everybody knew I was suicidal. I'd lost my identity, my dream. I was a projected number one draft pick by the Oakland Raiders into the NFL. My dreams were coming true. I had an invitation trial by the Kansas City Royals out of high school as a baseball pitcher. My identity was you are an athlete, and I was a pretty decorated athlete. And in one day, that was taken away from me. So when you're starting to figure out your why, when you're starting to figure out your who, you have to start believing that some of these quotes are more than affirmations. They're more than cliches. Uh, there's a difference between the person and the performance. If you're not failing a few times, it means you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And so my trigger, bro, was to finally get in that place where, just like in Alcoholics Anonymous, they say it was the sickness that made me well.
Hmm.
And everybody says you got to hit rock bottom before you can bounce back. Anybody who's fought addiction, and I've been a speaker, I've been involved in that community at the Betty Ford Center as an executive, as a coach, never having dealt with the challenge of addiction, but still understanding that and triggering these brain chemicals that we'll get back to in a minute. But what happened to me was I got to the point in my suicide ideology that I actually made a plan, and that's the scary part. When you actually take it to the place where my life has no more value and nobody needs me, I won't be missed, and we start playing this game and start telling these stories that aren't true, that we dwell on them to the point where we believe them. And what happened to me is I finally came to the realization that it was time for me to decide, do I want to live or do I want to die? And even though this is kind of a real melancholy experience I'm sharing, that's what we got to do. Everybody has to answer that question every single day. Do I want to live or do I want to die? And death isn't just getting buried. What do they say? So many people die when they're 25 and are buried when they're 87.
Mm-hmm.
Statistics and research shows most people hate their jobs. They only look forward to Friday instead of Monday. They think they're paid by the hour when in reality we're paid for the value we bring into that hour. So at some point, what we've got to understand is that in America, God bless America, the greatest country on our planet, we have an inherent economic ladder as part of our free enterprise, free market system. It was instilled in way back in the 1700s by our founding fathers. And the coolest thing about this, noting that we don't have a whole lot of folks trying to caravan to get back into Mexico to live. We don't have people jumping on boats to go live in Vietnam or Cuba. It's still the greatest country on the planet. And when people arrive here, you see those who think they're entitled, and you see those who are understanding the opportunity available. Let me just shift gears. September 11th, 2001, when those 19 terrorists hijacked jets and crashed them into buildings, killing thousands of people. Let's just be honest and use our logic and just take off the political hats for a moment. Those 19 terrorists did not attack our country. They did not attack our government. They didn't try to overthrow our government or capture landmass. They attacked what we believe in, which means living in America does not make you an American. Living in America does not make you an American. An American citizen subscribes to a specific set of core values and ideals put forth by our founding fathers, protected in our Constitution. It goes back to what do we believe and what are we willing to do to prove? Our actions just prove and showcase what we believe. We understand that. So when we start talking about our why, and it has to be bigger than our why not, and we start focusing in on everything that we've been talking about, the kicker is to say, okay, so we have this system in place, and entitlement versus opportunity. Well, do I want to live or do I want to die? Well, I want to live in the greatest country on the planet. Now, the second question is, if I'm going to live, do I want to be happy or do I want to be sad? Well, obviously, if I want to live, I want to be happy. Third question, what do I have to do to heal? What do I have to do to be happy? Well, the reality is, in a heart centered individual, which I had influences in my life at this point to help change my mindset and my value system, to you find someone who's, if you're hurting and you find someone else who is hurting, when you help him or her, two people are healed in the process. So that's why I started sharing my journey. It became therapeutic. People would come up to me afterwards and go, "Oh my gosh, I've been paralyzed emotionally. I know what you're going through." Because when I was paralyzed, I had way too many people come up to me and say, "Dan, I know what you're going through." And I used to think, you don't have a flipping clue. Let me paralyze you for 14 months. But when I found people who actually had experienced what I've experienced, and I could resonate with them, realizing that psychiatrists and psychologists teach us that the average person talks between 200 and 400 words a minute, and yet we think between 400 and 800 words a minute, which means no one ever knows everything that we want to say. No one knows everything that we think. No one knows everything that we feel. The author Thoreau was right when he said, "Men lead lives of quiet desperation." I was living in this cave. I got it handled, and now people started to influence me at the right time with the right mindset shift. And that really is powerful. And that can happen in a book. Vice president of the University of Utah, who cared about me, he came and brought me a cassette tape to listen to by a, quote, motivational speaker by the name of Zig Ziglar. And I'd never heard of Zig Ziglar before. I thought, well, his mom ran out of names. So out of curiosity, I listened to the tape, 45 minutes long. And the only thing I remember is one story about Spindletop. And I was not emotionally or intellectually, mentally prepared to hear a doctor's theory, a doctor's prognosis, a physical therapist's journey to recovery. I was in that emotional state where I could only listen to and relate to a story. And Zig came to the rescue. That's why it's such an honor for him to finally hear me speak. Sponsored me in the National Speakers Association, introduced me to Nancy Reagan, who invited me to the White House, and I took Mrs. Reagan's Just Say No program to all 50 states back in the day, speaking to 3 high schools every day, 15 a week for 140 school days a year. Between 1983 and 1989, 150 college university campuses a year, 100 teacher and services every year, all those years, and then transferring most of my energy into the corporate arena in about 1991, 1992, delivering 150, 200 speeches every single year. It's been a good life, made millions of dollars, but that means nothing unless I've touched some lives and helped them, stay on the path, believe in themselves, that no matter what their past has been, they have a spotless future.
I did a quote with Mark Twain without his permission. He wasn't there to ask, so I just went ahead and added my part to the quote. And I feel when you say that there are people that are alive, but they're not taking care of business like they could to be alive. I know that when you answer that question, I am curious about my day, that you're actually thinking about what it is to be alive. And I want to say that Mark Twain's quote, he has the first and the second, and I added the third. He said the 2 most important days in your life, and I'm going to go with the 3 because that's the part that I added. The 3 most important days in your life is the day you were born, the day you find out why, in Dr. Smiley's edition, and the day you do something about it.
I love that more. Mark Twain's smiling. He's going, go for it, Ken. Go do it, baby. Yeah, I believe that. I had an opportunity to soar to the edge of space for 5 hours where I saw the breathtaking curvature of the earth, endless blackness of the universe, pondering eternity and my place in it. And in that environment, I teared up. My space helmet teared up. Let me backtrack. I had to train for 2 months to lose 29 pounds. Showed up on the base for 2 days of training and serious orientation. Fitted into my 130-pound spacesuit, introduced to my commander, where we immediately climbed aboard our U-2 spy plane, our U-2 reconnaissance aircraft, and rapidly climbed to 17 miles above the Earth's surface, 90,000 feet. It was unbelievable. And in that environment, I teared up. My space helmet teared up as an eyewitness to two powerful quotes. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The mind once stretched can never return to its original dimensions." That's what you just said. What are you going to do about it? But from a spiritual note, I also became an eyewitness to the words of Einstein, who said, although the concept of a supreme being and a master organizer is complex, we must be willing to embrace the mindset of a young child who walks into a large library and says, surely someone must have written all these books. So by the time we landed, my spiritual experience was I was convinced that we're more than mere mortal beings living on a small planet for a short season. What are you going to do about it? Everybody says, what's the purpose of life and what's the meaning of life, as if they're synonyms and they're same. No, they are not. And this is how I'm going to embellish your trifecta, your brilliant quote. The purpose of life is to come to earth and gain a body and become the best version of ourselves. Character development, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, getting knocked down 7 times, having to figure out how to get back up 8. Understanding that adversity is what introduces us to ourselves. No one will ever know how strong we are until being strong is our only choice. That's the purpose of life. No matter what your past means, you have a spotless future. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control what happens next. That's the purpose of life. We all get it. The meaning, what are you going to do about it? Is what are you going to do with your capabilities? What are you going to do today to make today a revenue day? What are you going to do in this conversation so everyone personally and professionally leaves you saying, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. What are you going to do to become that real man, that real woman? What are you going to do with your opportunities, with your capabilities? What are you going to do to increase your value in the marketplace? Let's go back there for a minute. So America's free enterprise system, free market system, has inculcated, amalgamated, embedded in its system this income ladder, this prosperity ladder that all of us have access to. It doesn't matter if you're in the inner city ghetto. It doesn't matter if you come from a single parent family, it does not matter your race, your gender. Let's just talk about the American system, because I could give you name after name and story after story of individuals who have overcome greater odds than I will ever face in my life and accomplished more with their lives and made a greater impact and greater lasting legacy influence than anybody I can even mention, because they didn't use any excuses, because they understood this inherent leadership, income bearing, income earning ladder as part of our American free enterprise system. So let me illustrate. To the best of my ability, I learned this from a great mentor of mine, Jim Rohn. So let's just say at the bottom of this income ladder is $5 an hour. And there's someone in McDonald's who will pay you or someone else $5 an hour to take out the trash, because they perceive that that is your value in the marketplace. And if you want them to give you a raise and pay you $6 an hour, all you got to do is come to work with a smile, with that attitude, that heart-centered service before self, and they will willingly and gladly give you another hour, $1 an hour raise, $6 an hour. But right now, there's such a push to legislate the minimum wage. $15 an hour here. I think we went up to $20 an hour in California, whatever the case may be. You don't have to legislate a minimum wage. It's already embedded in the United States of America's economic system, income earning possibility ladder. $5 an hour is way down here. $15 or $20 an hour is right here. So the responsibility is on you and me to increase our value in the marketplace so that someone wants to pay us $15 or $20 an hour. We don't have to have government force some employer to do it. They will willingly do that. Now, don't get me wrong. The person who's being paid $5 an hour to take out the trash, he is just as important as you and I. He is just as valuable to his parents and his brothers and sisters and his circles of friends as I am. He is just an equally valued human being as I am. And in the eyes and sense of God, who created all of us in the image, in his exact image and likeness, same God who made you, made me too. This individual making $5 an hour is still has the equal amount of value that I do or you do making 20 bucks an hour, or the CEO president of Coca-Cola bottling who makes $80 million a year. Oh my gosh. LeBron James, who makes $50 million a year. I don't even know what the current rate's going. Oh, that's absurd, blah, blah, blah. Not to the marketplace.
Right.
When the NBA signs a multi-gajillion dollar contract with television, and the collective bargaining agreement in the players union says the players actually get their share of that contract, that's why their salaries are so high. The reason why the CEO and president of Coca-Cola Bottling Company is getting paid $80 million a year in annual salary is because he's generating billions of dollars in annual revenue. And the board of directors of Coca-Cola says, well, oh my gosh, he's worth at least 1% of our revenue. So what we have to do is increase our value in the marketplace. Remember, we're not paid by the hour. If that was true, we could just stay in bed and have someone send us a check.
Right.
Some point, we've got to do something with our capabilities. 3 most important days: the day you were born, the day you find out why, and the day you
Do something about it.
do something about it. I love that. How powerful is that mantra? That should be on every refrigerator door in America.
You remind me of a TED talk about people moaning and griping about philanthropic presidents who are making $1 million. And the TED talk goes on to say that they chose to make a pittance of what they could have made in corporate America because they believed in what they were doing with their skill set they learned in college. And the TED talk goes on to say, why do you want to cripple a CEO of a philanthropic organization and get the worst one to get the worst impact? Why wouldn't you pay someone $20 million and they solve a problem in the world?
You got it.
Yeah.
And when I work with corporations, culture is king. Peter Drucker says, once you get the culture right, the rest of the stuff takes care of itself. So my formula, it works for major corporations, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, small businesses, sports teams, our children's schools, and even in our own homes. Every culture is created between the strongest belief, highest expectation, and best behavior that the leader lives by, and the worst behavior that the leader tolerates. So if we want to level up our culture in any one of those entities, what we have to do is take our strongest belief, highest expectation, best behavior that the leader lives by. I'd rather see a sermon preached than hear one any day. I'd rather you would walk with me than merely point the way. And identify what we're not willing, our worst behavior that they're not willing to tolerate, and shrink the distance between them. And when we shrink the distance between them, we actually create what I call a culture of significance. So my flagship book is called The Art of Significance: Achieving the Level Beyond Success.
Love that book.
Published by Penguin Random House. And when I finished my book tour, I realized the number one most frequently asked question from the talk show hosts was, what's the difference between success and significance? And I said, may I answer with a story? Surprise, surprise. I'm in a conversation with one of my football teammates who was drafted into the National Football League in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles. And after 2 years in the league, after 2 years with the Eagles playing at the highest level, he's traded to my Oakland Raiders. After 4 years in the league total, playing at the highest Pro Bowl level, one day, he walks out of practice, quits, never to play again. Why? He loved being a football player, but he hated playing football. He loved the celebrity perks and the fame and fortune that allowed him to live this life we call successful, competing against others. Nice house, nice car, nice holiday, nice title, nice toys. But because his inner voice and true purpose, more importantly, meaning in life, was misaligned with what he was doing and what he had to do to become successful, He would never live a life of significance, and he would die with regrets and with his intentions and music still in him.
Mm.
So, consolidated definition: successful people get what they think they want by focusing on what matters at the moment. But those of us who are striving to live lives of significance, being those heart centered friends, those heart centered leaders, mentors, coaches, to have that lasting impact, that meaningful influence, that ripple effect, those of us who are striving to live lives of significance actually want what we get by focusing on what matters most, which lasts the longest, so we don't die with our music still in us. So it's so critically important that we start analyzing, why are we doing it? If we're only engaging in things that matter at the moment, we don't leave a legacy. We don't have a lasting impact. You know, Steve Covey wrote Seven Habits, and I've known him forever, God rest his soul. And his seven habits are famous, but I was challenged, you know, it's sometimes you don't just answer the questions, you got to question the answers. And when he said begin with the end in mind, you realize what that does? When we begin with the end in mind, it forces us to focus on a destination that's impressive, competing against others, success. Do our best to manage people and reward results, which means if we don't achieve that result, we're a loser because we're tied to the result. We can't separate the person from the performance. It's just so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen if we began with the why in mind, which inspires us and empowers us to focus on a journey that's important, where we manage expectations and reward effort, which means there's never a destination. We wake up every day. Today's day one. I'm so curious about how good I can be right now, today. So everybody leaves me saying, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. It all ties together, and we just keep regurgitating what we're talking about so no one loses track that this is the journey of life. This is how we convert from success to significance. It's so critically important that we understand there's a difference. And let me just plug, that's why your books are so powerful. You resonate with the heart-centered individuals. So those who are successful, only focusing in on the what and the how, they are transactional friends, transactional leaders, transactional parents, coaches, mentors. But those of us who add that passionate why and that compelling want, those of us who really want to transform our lives from successful to significance, become transformational friends, transformational leaders, transformational coaches and mentors and authors and speakers. And that's the only way we can have that impact. That's the only way that we can, create that lasting legacy of influence. Let me just throw something else in. I'm a dumb football player. My cholesterol count's higher than my SAT score. So when these ideas pop into my head, I got to just, throw it into the fire here just to let it burn a little bit and try to warm up someone's spirit. When you go to an American football game, you got to realize that not every play is designed to score a touchdown. One play sets up the next play, which sets up the next play. And eventually that running back breaks through for that 30-yard scamper to score the game-winning touchdown, which reminds us that momentum is only as good as your next play. What are you going to do when you tune out of this live? What are you going to do when you click off the reading light and turn that last page or close that back cover to the book you've just read or the listen to? I love what you said, Ken. What are you going to do about your capabilities? What are you going to do about your opportunities, responsibility? You have the ability to do so much more than you've ever dreamed possible. What will your response be? I'm too tired, trigger adrenaline. I don't think I can get back up and go again. Well, he did, she did, I can too, endorphin. We can really master our efforts, master our energy, manage our energy, not our time, and do more than we ever thought possible. It's so simple. It's so critically important. Back to football, there's nothing more insignificant than the halftime score. Again, my quote, no matter what your past has been, you have a spotless future. What you've done in the past doesn't make you who you are. Who you prepared to become in the future is what makes you who you are. You never judge a man when he's up. You always judge a man or a woman when they are down. What are you going to do with this adversity? Come on, prove it. Show us your colors. Come on, baby. Now, here's the kicker. I'm such a football fanatic. I've interviewed all the top collegiate coaches and all the top professional coaches, football coaches. And they remind us that in a 60-minute competition, there are 60 to 70 plays, offensive, defensive plays. Winning or losing that game always boils down to only 6 plays. So if you come to my home and we drive to the stadium and I've got front row seats on the 50-yard line, 6 right there on row 4, right behind the coach's bench, right behind my favorite team, so the coach can hear the plays I've been calling all these years, and he's never called one of them. What a freaking jerk. When you're there on the way to the stadium, I will drive you crazy. There's only 6 plays. You got to keep your eyes open for 6 plays. Keep your heart and mind connected. Identify the 6 plays. Now, where we're sitting next to each other watching the game, I will drive you nuts. Was that one of the 6 plays? Was that one of the 6 plays? And then when we're driving home, we analyze the game and we can clarify and identify the 6 plays that turned the game around and allowed this team to win and this team to lose. Sometimes you didn't lose. Time runs out, but you didn't lose. It doesn't matter. It boils down to 6 plays. So when I go in and work with a professional football team or a collegiate football team, and I tell them this and share this, that not every play is designed to score a touchdown. The way I implement that into practice is they might have a tackling drill. They might have a quarterback receiver drill going out for passes. Regardless of what they're doing, I have them focus on the person they're competing against, the defensive back that's covering the receiver, the defensive tackle that's trying to pass rush, and the offensive guard is trying to protect. The one-on-one, mano-on-mano exchange, I always say, okay, at the end of that specific exercise, that specific practice drill, I want you to grab each other's face masks, look them in the eye and say, was that one of the 6 plays? Did you give it everything you've got when less would be sufficient? If not, why not? And therefore you play like you practice because you practice like you play. There's no separation because your why is bigger than your why not. When you wake up, I've got to be the best I can be today in practice. I'm not going to only run when the coach is watching. I'm not going to take reps off in the weight room. I am going to be so freaking focused on being the very best I can be that people can trust me because I'm competent, I'm consistent, I have character. I do what I say I'm going to do. I have clarity of who I am and why I'm here and how I can make everybody else better than me or as good as me, or together we rise. When the water in the lake goes up, all the boats rise together. Remember this, we win and lose as a team, my friends, but we win and lose because of individuals. Can I trust you? Can I count on you? If not, I don't want you on my freaking team. Change the people or change the people. And that's not being insensitive. That's saying that when you climb into the cockpit of a fighter jet or of a bomber or of a commercial airliner and you're the pilot, it doesn't matter if you're male, female, black, white, brown. It doesn't matter your race, creed, belief system, or socioeconomic condition. The jet does not care. Are you qualified to fly it? Are you capable? Have you gone through enough training and personal experience to push the buttons, to push up that jet and push it to its ultimate capacity and potential as a flying machine? I've flown all the fighter jets, flown the air show with the Thunderbirds. If you've seen the movie Top Gun Maverick more than 10 times like I have, I've flown that exact same F-18. I've done everything you've seen in that movie. Caught 9.4 Gs, went twice the speed of sound, Mach 2. And in a 90-minute sortie, they let me take the stick for 30 out of the 90 minutes. because I'm a civilian by law, I cannot take off and land a military aircraft owned by the taxpayers. But once I'm airborne, they let me do my thing. And I remember when I landed in my first F-18 experience, oh my gosh, the night before my flight, I go to dinner with the wing commander, Doug Thompson. And I said, hey, before my flight in the morning, is there something I should eat to prepare? And he goes, yeah, bananas. I said, why? Am I going to cramp up? Do I need the potassium? He said, it's because bananas taste exactly the same coming up as they do going down. I said, whoa. So now I board my flight, 90-minute sortie. We do everything, the loops, aileron rolls, simulated bombing runs, unfreaking believable. We land, I climb out of the cockpit, and there's a journalist with a film crew because I'm a civilian. And the only question she asked me, Ken, is, so, Mr. Clark, did you pop your cookies? And I said, yeah. I said, Commander Doug Thompson was absolutely correct about those bananas. I said, in fact, I ejected a box of Milk Duds I'd eaten at a movie when I was 9. I said, I was upside down so long, I think I'm the only human being who's ever thrown down. And as I started walking to the locker room with my commander, Captain Roto Rooter, call sign Roto. I'm like, oh, perfect. I'm going to put my life in the hands of Roto Rooter. There was no Maverick or Cougar or Iceman. I'd lost the romance in the first day and a half going through my training. I looked for Kelly McGillis in the bathroom, non-existent. So I'm walking to the locker room with my commander, my flight lead. And I said, Rotor, how did we fly this magnificent flying machine? He said, by feel. I said, what do you mean? He said, you become the plane. I said, what do you mean? He said, when you climbed into that cockpit and when you climbed up the ladder and slid into the cockpit, did you strap into the F-18 or did you strap the F-18 onto you? Heart center, let's just tie a full little bow around our whole conversation. In that fighter jet, it has state-of-the-art, high technology, gauges and gadgets crammed bumper to bumper with sensors all around you in the cockpit. But you take it supersonic. You push that aircraft to its ultimate capacity and potential. As a human being, you live on the edge and go to the edge of your limitations, not with the left brain cognitive psychopathologic neurotechnical stuff, not with high tech. You have to overcompensate with high touch. You take your life, you take your organization, you take your personal relationships with your spouse and family, your relationships with your comrades, with your coworkers, with your execs, with your employees, with your players as a coach, with the right brain, touchy-feely, emotional relationship side of life. Yes, AI is a tool, but how and when and why we use it is a choice. We cannot replace, talent cannot replace touch. Talent cannot replace mindset, heart set. AI is never going to be the most important or powerful intelligence. It's still individual emotional intelligence that allows us to take ourselves from where we are to where we want to be.
So, Dan, you're going to have to change your bio.
Why? What did it say?
Well, your bio is now going to say 38 books. We're publishing this. We're publishing this show, and it's
I love it.
it's a book by itself. I do want to say a
That's
couple things, obviously, because you got me thinking on so many levels. So one, it's funny you say 6 things cause a football team to lose. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, whether it was Blink or Outliers, but he says it's 6 things that happen before a plane has to go down. It's not one thing. It's not 2.
Oh, yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty significant. And then you remind me about when you talked about the character and the components of a team. Coach Holtz, I heard him speak, and what a brilliant speaker and what a fun speaker he is. And I was curious. Before I go there, I do want to give a shout out to your book. When I met you for the first day in 2015 at CEO Space, I want to show, first of all, I always take a photo of you with a smile card. And the reason why is because I have 300 books and I want you to have a different suit on. I don't want you to have the same suit for every single book. The second reason is because you're smart. Most people think, check mark, I've done the smile card, but you've always humored me by saying, yeah, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Because every day is a new opportunity to show that you're a better person, a bigger person, a different person. So I want to show just a couple things real quick. Um, First of all, I want to show Mr. Holtz. There he is right there with an
I love it. Oh, look at you with the smile card. Yeah.
yeah, that was a good day. And then I want to show you
I
uh
know Steve Farber as well. He's a great guitar player. I think he just released a new tune he wrote. I
he
love
sure
that.
did. And then
Yep.
this is the day I met you right here.
Oh my gosh.
That's the day I met you, and you gave me the art of significance. And this
Uh,
is a couple years ago, but I photographed you several times. And my point is, you are so smart to know that when I ask you to hold the card, I'm not asking you because I want to say I honor you again. And the last thing I wanted to show very quickly was I wanted to show the art of significance. I wanted to show where there it is. So this is the book that you gave me, and
oh my gosh. Yeah, look at that. What a
I think
memory.
the most powerful thing I can tell you and the audience is you don't know how important that was.
Hmm.
Very important. And when you are an author and you give a book to someone, you give a piece of yourself. And I took it, I read it, and I learned so much more about you. I want to see there's more to Dan. So I Google, I find out you're in Chicken Soup for the Soul. And that's why when I saw you at an event, I celebrated you every time.
Thank you. Very. You always have. You're always so kind to me. You know what the brain chemicals? Serotonin is the recognition drug.
Yes.
And research shows that the receiver, the recipient of an act of kindness, has a huge shot, a huge elevation of serotonin in their body, in their mind, and they strengthen their immune system. But here's the kicker that you prove true in the way you live your life and the way you interact with everybody. The giver of that act of kindness also receives the same level shot of serotonin and the same level of strengthening of the immune system that the receiver received. And the third part, a person who observes an act of kindness also has that huge shot of serotonin and that strengthening of immune system. So just being kind, having someone being kind to us, but us observing your kindness, the way you interact with people, and I watch you a lot, bro, also triggers that serotonin, the recognition drug. It also triggers love drug, which is oxytocin, more giving. I can do that too. I want to be more like Ken. I want to have people leave me saying I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again, not just Rochin. He hasn't corralled that all by himself to get people to smile, but he has kickstarted all of us in the room, all of us at the conference to follow your dream, to follow your suit, to follow your example. So you've had an equal amount of impact on my life as I've apparently had on yours.
Well,
Thanks.
I'm going to be adding you to a book that I've been. I thought I'd already added you on, and ironically, but I had not. So I'm going to show it to you, and we're going to be able to assemble the show for your liking, so we can put in. But it's the three big questions. How did you create who you are? How did you find your why? What is it? And then how did you use your why to make a difference in the world? Those are the three big. And
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
going to show you the cover because you've been talking about these chemicals all day, and you see me smile every time you said one because they relate so much to the biggest book I ever did, which was during the pandemic. I needed a dose of hope. And so I made a book called Dose: Dopamine, Oxytocin, Serotonin, Endorphins.
Look at you, brother. And my book, Story Selling, dissects and really gives an illustration and the case studies behind all of that science.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's powerful. I'm so proud of you. You're way ahead of the curve.
Well, I learn from the best, don't I? And
Ah, you're
so
so
let's
fun.
go to some trivia questions. Before we do, I just want to say one of the things I appreciated just immensely about you is during the pandemic, your humor was so needed in the world. And when you did that post about that money is dirty and that you didn't want anyone to get COVID, and my wife is watching me dig through my son's piggy bank, getting all the money out, and we're trying to get it in a box for you. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Dan is going to save us. He's trying to help the world be rid of COVID." That was one of my favorite days of the pandemic is reading your daggone post.
You're so funny. Yeah. Humor triggers endorphins quicker than anything. There's four ways to start every speech. You ask a question. You cannot not answer a question. Quote a startling factoid or statistic to get people to sit up and go, really? I didn't know that. Start with a joke, which is my favorite. or just start immediately with a story once upon a time. And, you know, everybody needs to understand there's a difference between fear and excitement, but it's the exact same body chemical. It's just how we interpret it. So if you're afraid before you speak, just click the button over and be excited and enthused before you speak. And it's not going to destroy you. It's not going to immobilize you like fear does. It's not going to shut down your muscles. It's going to excite your blood. It's going to excite your mind. And
Well, I want to say that if you do two of those together or three of those together, which you master, I mean, one of my favorites is combining humor with stats. And
absolutely,
you can do that very easily by saying, you know, that 57.65% of statistics are made up right on the spot.
that's very funny. Yeah. Or
So
that
I have some trivia
or
questions.
that one out of three people is ugly. Look at the person on your left and look at the person on your right. If they're both pretty good looking, let's have a talk. We can make up statistics and make people laugh all day long.
I love the one that there are three kinds of people in the world: those that can count and those that can't. Those
Yeah,
are
that's funny. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, you can amalgamate. You can, you know, mix and match all of those four ways to start a speech or to start a story. And yeah, that's fascinating. Very cool.
it's actually what makes a DJ the best of the best is they put one song with another and they belong together, and so it keeps it in synchronicity.
Absolutely. Especially when you're a guitar player like me, you only need to know four chords and you can play every single rock and roll or country hit ever written. It's just craziest world.
It is. Well, we're going to go to some trivia. You've been so generous with your time. And the wrap is basically how is Dan Clark programmed? And so I've come up with some questions. They don't need any elaboration. You've been more than kind in the show to elaborate. You can add something, but don't feel you have to elaborate. So
And
um, I'm going to ask more than five because you had some questions I couldn't ask during the show because I really was being a good listener. So, but it's called rapid fire. So I'll throw them at you. You throw them back. So we'll start with the easy ones right now. What book changed your life?
Think and Grow Rich, the
That's
Bible.
that's the most. Those two are the most common answers as you can imagine.
I know. So I want to be different. Just a second. Let me think. Um, how will your life be measured by Clayton Christensen? Um, First Break All the Rules by, I think Gladwell wrote that book. Um,
What was the first book you wrote, Dan?
the first book I read on self help was Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I'd better throw that one in because that changed my life as a linebacker. Our coach forced us to read these.
Wasn't that kind of him?
Yeah, I'm so, oh, yeah, way before that was the thing. So you asked me what was your question about
I said
my,
what book did you write first? What was the first one you had?
ah, so I was in the Reagan White House taking Mrs. Reagan's Just Say No program to all 50 states, all 10 provinces of Canada. So my first book was published in 1983 called Getting High, How to Really Do It.
Hmm. Wow,
That's pretty funny.
that is
My
pretty funny.
mug was on the front cover. I had the mullet,
Yeah,
business in the front, party in the back. Yeah, it was awesome.
nice. What movie inspires you?
Top Gun,
What's your
um, A Wonderful Life, Ben-Hur,
What's your
uh,
favorite football movie?
uh, um, the story of Brian Piccolo.
I watched a movie last night.
Oh, All American too. All American.
Oh
That's
gosh,
that's
it's All
another one.
American.
Yeah,
Love All
thank
American.
you. Yeah,
My All American. What a movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd say that. Yeah, that's more current than. Um, I'm trying to remember what the Brian Piccolo Gail Sears movie was called.
Is Brian song?
Brian,
Yeah.
duh. Yeah, Brian's song.
Yeah.
Yeah, really rips at your heartstrings, especially when I was hurt
Yeah.
and just my dreams were shattered and I had to figure it out. And even though he died of cancer, yeah, it's amazing how we find things that resonate with our experience and hopefully we have that triumph over tragedy, end result.
I don't know if you've seen this movie, but I highly endorse it. And this is my gift to you. Remember, good old Charlie Tremendous Jones. He says the difference between where we are today and where we'll be 5 years from now are the people we meet and the books we read. Well, it's also anything that you recommend to somebody that would change their life. So I'll just say I watched a movie last night that I just really enjoyed. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it so much. It was Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too. That's beautiful.
Great
Oh
movie.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So I was really impressed with Ken Miles, who he was, and What a story. So
I've,
next,
I've done, I've raced cars at the Nürburgring and at Daytona. And yeah, there's something about that high performance world that we still equate to intuitive touch, the right brain, the touchy feely, trust your training, be competent, but now go with the flow, baby. Go with your heart, go with your intuition. Yeah.
well, I brought that up for that reason. You said when you got in the cockpit, how you became part of the plane, and that was Ken Miles' secret. He actually became part of the car.
Yep, exactly.
Um,
Because we're both musicians, it's the difference between having someone sit down at the piano and play a song and becoming the instrument, becoming part of the piano, be part of the guitar, part of the harp, part of the saxophone solo. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I definitely know what you mean. I'm getting choked up.
Anyway,
So speaking of that, you've mentioned some songs obviously that you like, but what's a song that gets you going? What's a song that inspires you or makes you feel?
you're so funny. Yesterday by Paul McCartney. I'm such a Beatles fan. That's why I learned to play the guitar. I saw,
Did you ever see that movie, the Yesterday movie?
yeah, I love that too. I've watched that many times. What a hoot. What a hoot.
That was a great one. All
Yeah.
right.
Wait a second. Wind Beneath My Wings. I've written songs with Larry Henley, who wrote that. Live Like You're Dying, my buddy Tim Nichols, he wrote that song, recorded by Tim McGraw. You know, the song that really helped me get through my dad's death was Garth Brooks' song, The Dance. Just the message. I love that song so much.
Great song.
Yeah. So the list goes on and on. I'm just such a
I
huge fan.
imagine you as a fan in some way regard of David Foster.
Yeah. I've had a chance to meet with him and, you know, his song, The Prayer with Celine.
Yeah.
Um, Josh Groban on the on the shoulders of giants or whatever the name of the actual song is.
Well, what a story that is. David
Oh
Foster
no,
needing to
I know,
replace Bocelli and Kyle, and
I know. It's so. I mean, those are the stories. That's endorphin right there. Just mentioning it just triggered endorphin in all of us.
heck yeah,
Yeah.
it does. All right. What are you most proud of, Dan?
My four kids. My relationship with my wife for 40. We'll be married 45 years coming up in June. You know, ups and downs, obviously twists and turns.
Hmm.
Everybody says, "What's your secret?" I've only been home 6 weeks total, so it's going really, really well. But you know, to have a relationship with someone who still makes me laugh and allows me to make her laugh, um, I'm really proud of the relationship I have with our children's friends because we created a very safe, solid environment in our home where they could get away from the troubles of life, maybe a dysfunctional family,
Hmm.
and you know, I'm proud of the fact that through all the fame, whatever, fortune, all the millions of dollars I've made, that I've been able to maintain at least a sense of humility where I acknowledge my God and I don't push it on anyone. I just want people to know I am a man of faith and I try my best. And I remind people that religion's for those who are afraid to go to hell, but spirituality is for those of us who have already been there, which seems to be an easier way to say the same God who made you made me too. But we have to be men and women of faith because this life is so much more than just 60 or 70 or 80 years. We're not just, we're more than mere mortal beings living on a small planet for a short season, like I said earlier, from my recollections from space.
Well, I have just a couple more questions for you. One is I want to get the hard question out of the way. This one sometimes baffles people, so I'm going to be gentle. How did you come up with danclark.com as your website? I mean, you must have gone through tons of thinking.
You're so funny. That's everybody's dream. In fact, you know what's so funny? I was so far behind in the internet that when I finally got around to having a URL, Dan Clark, and I Googled, or people were Googling me, finally went way back in the day when it first came out. The first person that came up was an African American male stripper. The second guy was a rank British comedian who was so filthy. The third guy was a nerdy accountant out of Florida, and then I came in limping at four. So I had to come up with Dan Clark Speak, and I was the first guy in the National Speaker Association who added that, and everybody seemed to follow that. I'm kind of proud of that legacy, even though nobody really knows who did it. But when danclark.com, yeah, I had to go buy it.
Hmm.
Some guy we held out, and I paid him a few grand. I can't even remember what it was, but it
But
was so.
worth it. But worth
It,
it.
it is. It's so easy. Yeah, I think
Just be glad your name wasn't Dave Clark.
I know. Go figure that one out. Or Richard Head. I mean, let's just go right. Let's just cut right to the chase. I'm so glad. You know,
All right. So by
because we're authors. 87% of the books that are purchased are never read,
that's right.
and about 80% of bestsellers are how-to books. So the subtitle really matters. Over 50% of the books that are purchased by women. So we have to understand something about the significance of titles. That's why you stand out among all the marketers, all the artists, all the authors I've ever met. You actually have this niche. I think it's because of your musical background, because it's the hook that's
Exactly.
built the song.
Yep.
I just stayed to help her cry.
Right.
Live like you're dying. Trisha, you're with the song Remembers When. Uh, and so when you can come up with that catchy title, you're so far ahead of anyone else who writes a book. And that's why you're such an expert marketer. Everybody needs to solicit your help. It needs to hire you as their book launcher, as a book marketer, probably including myself.
Well, I would be an honor to do anything with you, Dan. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Before the show, we talked about Kenny and Barry and the hook title I cut, and it's so simple, but yet it's going to flourish. What would you do with a smile? And it's never been written. What would you
I
do?
know.
So, and by the way, National Smile Day is May 31st. If you have something you'd like to say, I'm doing a smile-a-thon from the 30th. I mean, I'm the noon on the 30th to noon on the 31st. You can take 15 minutes and just say how valuable a smile is or whatever you'd like to say about positivity.
Just text me so I have a reminder. I'll put it in my calendar. Maybe email me when this is done. And
You got
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
I love that.
the last couple questions, sir. This is a two-part question because of how sophisticated you are. I usually say, who's your hero? But I'd like to say two parts. Who's your hero and who would you like to meet?
So my hero is my dad. He was never an athlete. He was a cotton farmer on the east side of Phoenix, became very successful, started his own insurance company, his own financial corporation, uh, bought and really built up memorial estates, mortuaries, and cemeteries. He was a rancher. He was a legislator. He was a miner, had a silver mine in Pahrump, Nevada. He raised 1 million turkeys on a farm in Utah. I mean, he just was the consummate Renaissance guy, great speaker,
Wow.
never an athlete, never missed one of my games. He was just my guy. And so I was able to bounce my renegade maverick, crazy, wild, living on the edge personality, athleticism off of my dad, who was highly educated, just a very sophisticated, dignified man. So of all the men I've met, all the people that I've met in my life, and you go to my website, danclark.com, you can see I've been wined and dined by presidents and sheikhs, and I've met every famous person, interviewed all the greats, all the most famous, all the most powerful, the successful who are happy and significant, and those who are not and have lost, they've gained the whole world and lost their soul. Everybody. And my ultimate compliment is when someone's the same off stage as they are on stage, like you are, Ken. I want to be that guy. I want to be the same off stage as I am on stage. I don't want people to say, man, somebody wrote you a great speech, but off stage you have no freaking personality. Oh my gosh, this guy was so funny and off stage, man, this guy's evil. Man, he has no sense of humor. He's not funny. So there's so many people who talk the talk and never walk the walk, and it just destroys the world. It destroys my profession as a professional speaker. There's a difference between being a professional speaker and a professional presenter. And a professional presenter thinks it's all about him. Oh my gosh, the audience loved me on Wednesday, standing ovation. And the audience sucked on Friday, man. They didn't get me. As if it's about him instead of about the audience. So seek to bless, not impress. And the answer to your last question is, who would I want to meet? I would want to meet George Washington. And let me tell you why. Great story. So as a young man, he was a courier during the French and Indian War.
Hmm.
And so he's on the side of the French battling the Native Americans, the Indians that occupied North America. And uh, General Braddock, he was General Braddock's personal courier. And General Braddock, he was killed in a battle in 17, Don't quote me on this. You can look it up. I think it was 1757 or something like that. And every other courier except George Washington was killed.
Hmm.
And years later, before he was president of the United States, one of the most powerful and influential and senior Indian chiefs that fought against him told his braves that before he died, now that he was elderly, he wanted to go to Washington, D.C. to meet and shake the hand of George Washington because he had personally shot George Washington 17 times, and there was absolutely no lead or bullet in his body, and there were fragments of the bullets in his hair. And he instructed his braves during the war to stop wasting their ammunition shooting George Washington because they couldn't kill him. And this Indian chief wanted to shake the hand of the man who was divinely called and divinely protected, but as he would say, from the great source above. So George Washington was called and protected to be one of our founding fathers and the first president of the United States of America. So was Abraham Lincoln when you look at his history. And in the Civil War, what kept him rolling? And his most famous quote, which is applicable to today in our climate, that America will never be defeated or lose a war to an outside enemy. If America is destroyed, it will be by suicide. It will be because we no longer subscribe to those core values and ideals protected in the Constitution, illuminated in the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. So these quackos out there in the world right now, trying to just talk about the delivery system instead of the core values that are under attack, just piss me off on both sides of the aisle. When we can just be true to the Continental Congress, when they came to an impasse and realized it couldn't no longer be about opinion, who's right, and they had to come together and focus on what's right. They always paused under the direction of Benjamin Franklin or another man of faith, and they paused and called timeout and checked in with the coach. That's why we know the Constitution was divinely inspired, and so were our founding fathers. We have to understand and go back to the core values that make America the greatest country on the planet, reminding every listener that living in America does not make you an American. I challenge you to find, if we still can, find a swearing-in ceremony conducted by the Attorney General of that state, usually in the Capitol building or some sacred ground, where they actually have these individuals who came to America legally, jumped through the hoops, studied our Constitution, studied our Declaration of Independence, studied our Bill of Rights, went through counseling, understand the significance of being a citizen of the United States, and then under oath, they raised their hand to the square and denounced their previous country, pledge allegiance to our flag, to our country, to our Constitution, and pledge their service to our military to defend our freedom if called upon. That's what an American citizen is. Living in America does not make you an American. And those of you who want to politicize that, you can fricking bite the wall. We have got to become true patriotic Americans, not Democrats, not Republicans. Some of our senators and members of the House of Representatives need to know there are United States senators. They're United States members of the House of Representatives, and stop kowtowing to their special interest groups who slide in some bill to get $15 billion for their little cause that none of us taxpayers ever hear about because it's part of a larger bill that we've all been explained. We've got to become intelligent citizens of the United States of America. And because of my love for our military, are you a citizen worth dying for? Are you a citizen worth living for, fighting for to live another day? We have the greatest military on the planet. And there's not a person on this planet that wouldn't dream about living in America because of that ability, that opportunity. That even though when you get your finger broken and out of place as a football injury and you get it fused in an operation, You can still play the guitar because of the angle in which it was set, and can still play the piano because of the angle in which it was set.
Awesome.
So no matter how many times you get knocked down, just get back up and go again.
Well, we have one more final question for you because I do like ending on the most important note, which is a quote. And with that, you use the word divine no less than 3 times in the last couple minutes. I just want to show you this. That's I said it. I don't know if anyone else did, but I'll tell you, I couldn't find anybody else. Life is a divine journey if you choose it. So, with that said, Dan, first of all, thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your generosity. You are you're a friend that uh, is priceless, just the best. So, what quote do you live by? I know you've given tons of quotes, but what is the quote you'd like to end this show with?
Wow. Um, can I give you yeah, let me give you three. Uh, Shortest scripture in the Bible, Jesus wept. I never forget that.
Hmm.
And those of us who are Christians, those of us who are, Jewish or members of Islam or Hindi, it does not matter. We can still use Jesus as an example. He's a resurrected, glorified being who still has the prints of the nails in his hands and in his feet. Why does he have scars? Well, scars don't just show that we've been hurt, scars validate that we've also been healed. So I just reflect on that simple scripture. I've memorized over 1,450 scriptures, so I can use them in conversation. I don't have to take time to look them up. And I memorize one quote a day, so I want that in there. Jesus wept. The second one, uh, how many of us, gain the whole world and lose our soul? I always have to be aware of that. And that brings to mind the parable of the Good Samaritan. And, so interesting. I mean, this will be a little controversy. We don't know if Jesus's parables were actually true. We know that when he got to that place in his ministry where he really wanted to start teaching in a deeper way and a deeper, make more of a long lasting impact, your word, and have that lasting influence, my word, he started teaching in parables, which was a common way of teaching in the Jewish culture of the time. But he started teaching in parables because parables outlast the life. They have a life of their own, and they outlast the moment that we hear them. They continuously teach. Every story continuously teaches. We have an experience. Oh my gosh, I remember that. Oh my gosh, someone said that. Oh, now I remember that. And everybody in the world of finance, and I'm proud that we've made millions of dollars, and we need to keep working hard and pay our taxes and build America. But you realize that everybody says money is evil. Look at what Bernie Sanders and communist AOC are saying now as they travel the country in their rallies. This just cracks me up. And that's not slamming any Democrats. You don't even know if I'm a Republican or Democrat. We're just talking logical sense here. They're making money under the bus. They're spreading so many lies and so much propaganda. It's just pissing me off, and so many people who have a brain. And what they're saying is money is evil. No, the love of money is evil. The Good Samaritan, the parable of the Good Samaritan, the exact same money and coinage that the Good Samaritan used to bless that stranger on the highway, to bless his community and serve others, is the exact same money and coinage that Judas Iscariot used to betray Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
So it's not money, it's the love of money. We really cannot afford to gain the whole world and lose our soul. And so I guess I've already quoted the other quote, and I don't know why I resonate with it so much, but it would be every day. It's not enough to say, I will do my best. We must succeed in doing that which is necessary. And I don't really care about the storm you encountered. Did you bring in the ship? What are you going to do with your capabilities? Obviously your philosophy, your psychology, your spirituality. People in certain religious sects, it just drives me crazy. They think belief is enough. No, it's not. Faith without works is not faith at all. And then we mix and mingle faith with hope. In my 12 laws of the highest universal laws found in the art of significance, number one is obedience. It's the highest law of the universe. To, to test our obedience, God gave us what we call free will agency. So we always have a choice. To guarantee that our free will agency was always in play, God gave us an opposition in all things. You got to have darkness to appreciate the light. You got to have sickness to appreciate health. You got to have justice to appreciate mercy. You got to have uh, falsehood to appreciate truth. You got to have death to appreciate the sanctity of life. And because we were given an opposition in all things to protect our free will agency, and we now know that obedience is the only thing that protects our agency. If you disagree, visit a prison, and every prisoner incarcerated is there because they disobeyed and misused their free will agency. And because the master organizer, supreme being, Almighty God, knew that we were human and that we would be tempted with this opposition in all things, he gave every one of us born into this world an inherent ability to discern right from wrong, truth from error. We commonly call this ability our conscience, which means our conscience will never fail us, only our desire to follow it decreases as we continue to do the wrong thing. How many of us know elected officials in Washington, D.C. right now who are just like my roommate in college? He read that drinking alcohol is bad for him, so he stopped reading. It's so crazy how these folks are so stupid about the facts and figures. It just drives me wacko. Come on, America, let's be citizens with a brain. So what we have to understand is that if every single one of us on this call, on this broadcast, could amalgamate and coagulate and gather in one specific group, and together we entered a room that smelled so bad, that was so rank, that our eyes started to water, our noses started to bleed, and that smell kicked us into automatic gag reflex. Do you realize that if we stayed in that smelly, stinky, repulsive room for 5 to 10 minutes, it would no longer smell? We had become desensitized, and it's now the new norm. Is that not what has happened since COVID? Everybody, I can't wait to rush back to how it once was. Well, what part of our past was worth rushing to? Here's a chance for us to reset.
Mm-hmm.
Like Charlie Tremendous Jones said, who had a chance to hang out with a lot back in the day as the protege of Zig Ziglar. Who we are is based on the books we read, the people we listen to, the jokes we hear, the stories we feel. Let's just keep adding. It's about communication. So I honor you, Ken. You're the maestro. You're writing, you're recording, you're helping others write, you're capturing, you're leading the way, you're carrying the flag. I honor you. I love you, brother. Take pride in calling you a friend. And I don't know if I've said anything. I don't know if I've offended anyone who refuses to call light light, but I don't really care. Let's just stand up and draw our line in the sand, wave our flag about what is right. Some things are true whether you believe them or not. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but nobody's entitled to the wrong facts. And we should never believe everything that we think. That's a good place to leave it.
It is. And since I amplify goodness, I'm happy to amplify you. So danclark.com. It's a Dr. Smiley show. There will be a book coming out in November, and he will be one of the heart-centered leaders, 365 of them, that I am honoring in all the travels I've made. Thank you, Dan Clark.
Thanks. God bless.